The future has arrived, and now we will have cell phones that work all over the world anywhere because they will access satellites directly. And who is making all this possible? Our sponsor here on the channel, Elon Musk. He launched a service called Direct to Cell, and today in the video, we will explain what it is, where it is available, and which devices it is available on. And in addition, we will also talk a little about censorship, because it seems that now it will be difficult to censor us. Before we start, I would like you to comment below where you would like your cell phone to work. Is it on your farm? Is it when you go skiing? Is it under the cave? Is it underwater? Comment below where your cell phone hasn't worked and you wish it would. Remember that this video will have exclusive premium material, okay? A mind map here explaining what it is, status and limitations, advantages, future evolution. You open it here, everything is organized, premium material. And in addition, we will also have our ebook, where everything I talk about here will have a script, a summary, and detailed explanations. In other words, you can only find this material here, only on this channel. Rodrigo, how do I access these premium materials? Don't worry, I'll explain exactly how you can download these documents during this video, okay? Let's go straight to my computer screen. Today we will have the help of two specialists, Adriano Ponte, who will explain more about the technology, and Ankapsu, who will talk more about the issue of the difficulty of censoring freedom of expression, okay? So let's get started. 3, 2, 1, go. Starlink on the iPhone is real. You can finally use your iPhone to have satellite connection anywhere but using Starlink. So it's no longer just dependent on the emergency satellite like that Apple chose, which only activates in a special mode in isolated areas. However, it is initially available with only one carrier in only one way, and it is not yet transmitting the full signal. In other words, it's there, but it's over. It arrived, so you can't use it right away. You can use it, it's just that it has this humor, this way of speaking that I really like. It's not quite like that. The issue is that this is restricted to the United States. And to be honest, it's not just iPhone, okay? It arrived for 50 cell phone models. So we mention iPhone because Apple was the first OPPO to say, look, there's satellite for everyone. They're announcing it to everyone. And it's true. This started with the iPhone 14, more or less. And since then, the industry has been trying to figure out how to make the satellite work and surprise Starlink. Wow. Look, Elon Musk has populated the sky with satellites for a long time now. I keep thinking that in the future there will be a war, right? Because it seems like it's no man's land up there, right? It seems like there aren't many rules, right? But what happens? Soon there will be satellites colliding with satellites, right? Recently, Jeff Bezos from Amazon launched. He's going to be a competitor to Elon Musk, right? So soon there will be a lack of space. And then, how do you handle it, right? It's a wonderful technology. It provides accessibility for everyone. You'll finally have internet all over the world and damn, on the roads, which is excellent. But there's this whole issue. And another thing, the difficulty of a little device this size, we're going to talk about that, right? This size to access the satellite. Will you have to keep pointing it at the satellite? Anyway, let's go. Let's learn here. The satellite network is covering the entire world. Can you use it here in Brazil? It's expensive, but compared to other satellite solutions that have always dominated too much here, Starlink ends up being one of the less expensive, if not more accessible, in some regions. It's the same price as a physical connection and wired connection on your computer. The only difference, which is the annoying part, is that you have to buy the Starlink receiver.
Because the monthly cost ends up being the same for many people who don't have another option to have Starlink, which is a high-speed option, right? But you have to buy the receiver. In the case of iPhones, the person said, wait, Starlink on iPhones? Of course I want it. I made a long video for you here on the channel explaining how Starlink works. And I myself said, folks, satellite connection. On the iPhone, you would have to be in an open area. You need to be somewhere clear with a direct signal to be able to use the satellite. I was right. The Starlink Direct to Cell, which is the name of this, is a conversion of the Starlink satellite acting as a 5G antenna pointing downwards. Obviously, with such a great distance, such a complex network, these satellites are concerned with 1,000 things. It's logical that this branch of what would be the Starlink direct-to-cell, it's logical that it would be something limited, something less efficient. The Starlink satellites, the satellite constellation is always being expanded, with new launches continuously adding more. The equipment...
Exactly. Like, the satellites are evolving, the cell phones are evolving, the signal is increasing, the software, right, both the hardware, right, which is the machine itself is evolving as well as the software itself, right? In fact, cell phones started to become smaller. The battery lasts longer. The signals, right, 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, and so on, are improving. So soon we will be able to have the same connection, let's say, that the device, the antenna you have from Starlink itself, which was large, the traditional model, and now we already have the Starlink Mini, right, that fits in your backpack. So soon you will have there, right, the small chip, which cell phones already have today, but they will evolve, right? Soon they will put a specific chip to connect with the satellites, right?
They do this by converting the signal and sending it down in a way that the iPhone can understand, as if it were any other antenna transmitting to it. It's something that is expanding. So for us, who are here with the phone in hand, in reality, it's much more about Starlink making a revolution than the phones having satellite support. For those of you who want to read this more calmly, there's an article on Canaltech titled, 50 phones are already compatible with Musk's Starlink without an antenna. See the list. It's here. That's where the question comes from. 50 devices? But there aren't 50 iPhones that... Exactly. Even though Apple standardized from the 14 onwards the phones that have satellite connection support, this movement didn't happen with Android. Back then, Qualcomm tried to make this standard, Google tried to make this standard, but no one reached an agreement and it kind of got left behind. When you look at the list, there's iPhone 14, 15, 16, Pixel 9, Motorola Razr, Edge G, G5G, Galaxy A, Galaxy S, then Galaxy Z, and T-Mobile Revel 7 5G. You say, wait, this list, these are devices that, among themselves, what they share is the capability of having many 5G bands available. And that's exactly it. It's much more about correctly reading the converted signal coming from Starlink than actually pulling a satellite connection with this.
From what I understand, it's as if the Starlink satellite has, well, made an update and is, let's say, behaving like a normal cell tower. You get it? That's what we have today. So it managed there, right? The antennas in a way. Before I read 2G, now I read 2G and 3G. Now I read 2G, 3G and 4G. Now I read 2E, 3E, 4G and 5G. So in this case, Starlink would increase the bandwidth and then it would be able to understand these traditional cell phone signals, but from up there, right? So I understood that. But let's go.
Starlink. With 50 models and the restriction of being only T-Mobile, that is, like Vivo, Claro, Oi, TIM, an American cell phone carrier, you have a small number of devices, in quotes, and a certain portion of customers so that you can test this in a complementary way. That is, in T-Mobile coverage zones, meaning the entire United States, and other places as well. But anyway, when leaving the connectivity of the antennas that already cover the country in isolated areas where there is no connection, these models also start to see T-Mobile Starlink. Just as the carrier's chip guides you on whom you can connect with in terms of a common network, it also guides that this network is part of your plan. In other words, your phone didn't suddenly gain satellite capability out of nowhere. The satellite started to behave like an antenna of your carrier.
There you go. I managed to understand that correctly. There you go.
Quite different. This even happens with virtual operators. You have a chip that instructs, look, you can connect there, you can connect there, that one is part of the partnership. No, you ignore that network. It's kind of like that. It's an authentication that says yes or no. And this connection being extremely slow makes perfect sense. After all, it's a supplementary transmission from a network that is at a long distance with high difficulty in producing a signal adapted for here. Ideally, you would dial directly the way fixed equipment does. But a large piece of equipment needs line of sight, meaning it needs to look at the sky in a satellite-free space. None of that is happening. So the broadcasting of this, in terms of environmental interference, energy interference, and everything else, is much less efficient than...
Now, what becomes clear to me, having recently turned 40, is that when I started using cell phones, they only sent SMS, right? The text message, right? Then it started to receive, SMS plus email, for example. Then we started to actually browse the internet. Then MSN and ICQ came along. Then social networks came in. Then you could discreetly start watching video trailers, but very slowly. Then music and video and such, video calls. Then now it started to have videos, 2K, 4K, 8K. Video games, you can not need the console, right? The video game is in the cloud. And you can play any game heavy directly from your phone. There's that famous Microsoft service where you don't even need to have an Xbox. You can play the same Xbox game on your phone. You now have computers that are practically, there's the ROG phone, for example. It's practically a video game with with practically the same capability. And you can play in the cloud, so the connection keeps evolving and will move forward in the video. But basically, you start by sending just text messages, already with a forecast of later having audio, then video, and technology evolves like everything in life.
You actually become a direct transmitter and receiver from the satellite, which is what Starlink does in a traditional fixed home connection with equipment that consumes a considerable voltage, which even moves in one of the versions, though there's now a fixed version that no longer moves. The ideal is for you to find the satellite, point to it, and communicate directly with it. It's not like your cell phone that's in your pocket that you're placing here and everything else, If the receiver is here so that it will never be pointing, you won't be standing still, pointing at the satellite. This is in your pocket, it moves, it needs omnidirectional radio transmission. You don't use your router by pointing it like this. Around the house, you walk and keep the cell phone still like this. I'll get up, but I can't leave the line of sight of the router. You won't do that for the satellite. The satellite has to adapt to you, in this case, transmitting a much weaker signal because it goes in all directions at another frequency so that your cell phone can understand. In other words, it's a lousy signal compared to a tower that's next to you with unlimited energy, often close to you here on the ground. So it ends up being a very weak, low-speed signal that T-Mobile is initially only releasing for emergencies, for us text, for a supplementary connection. In the future, it will do more than just share location and text messages for emergency services and regular messages like SMS. What will it do?
Right now, only text messages save lives, right? Imagine you're climbing or just camping, which would be more normal, let's say, and you have no signal and need to send a distress message, for example. Someone is unwell, you don't have contact there, and you can't return quickly. Something happened. The jaguar, boom, showed up there. You got bitten by a snake, and an SMS, or in the future an audio, or an SMS with location sharing, still saves lives. Just like that. So, very interesting. Right from the start, isn't it? But let's go on. Let's continue here.
Internet. Is it going to be an internet with 1 megabyte, 2 megabytes like in speed? Yes. But I would say it's already more than enough for WhatsApp to be flooded with messages, which would be, in my opinion, a matter of life or death for many people to have WhatsApp in the middle of nowhere. It would literally save lives, or at least bring enormous comfort to have messages on your favorite apps or push notifications or some kind of, sending an email in the middle of nowhere for many people, you would already change their lives, right? Oh, but what nonsense. Yeah, no, of course it's nonsense. Aren't there people who have houses in the middle of nowhere who still have to pay bills, have documents, something like a civil life, even in the countryside? No, of course not. I've never seen someone with a farm send an email. Of course they do. And there are forgotten areas in countries. In Brazil, have you seen the size of the map? It's gigantic. It would be amazing to have connection throughout the entire country, that 100% of the states with mobile connection coverage. It would be fantastic, simply fantastic. Even if it were a slow connection, but if it were consistent throughout the entire country on any cell phone, of any brand, incredible. But getting there is going to be quite a journey, but it's already on the way. There are already those 50 cell phones it works with Starlink. Again, if you search for Starlink Canaltech, I explain in detail over half an hour how Starlink works. Once you've seen it, understood it, now this video you're watching makes even more sense. You say, remember that signal extension that would be Starlink starting to serve cell phones? So, what I said in that video is correct. The cell phone won't be pointing directly at Starlink. So the signal will be poor, but I prefer a poor signal on my cell phone than nothing. And it's a pretty generous poor signal, right? If it hits 1 megabyte, 2 megabytes, that's a lot.
Now, speaking of poor quality, there are many people who are not seeing the issue of artificial intelligence and its importance. As I always say in practically every video, I have 10 YouTube channels, 9 monetized, This is just one of the 10 sources of income I have, and this wouldn't be possible if I didn't use artificial intelligence, which I'm already going into the 3rd year of using, because it helps to create scripts, it helps create the channel. There are channels that I show here, including on this channel, where it's not me presenting, it's me I appear, but it's my clone. It's my avatar. So sometimes I travel, sometimes I'm sick, sometimes I'm in many meetings, I'm out of time. My clone presents for me. There are other cases where it's not my voice, it's a neural voice, and there are cases where it's my avatar, but it's not mine, right? It's a presenter who isn't real. There are podcast programs here on the channel that are people who aren't people. They're AIs talking. The ones that give the weekly summary and you don't even notice. And I monetize. I make money from this. So if you also want my help to make money with this, I have my mentorship called AI Master Monetization. Rodrigo, do I need to already have a business, something running? No. If you don't have one, we'll build it from scratch. If you do have one, we'll help you increase both your productivity and your profits. Okay? I'll leave the link in the video description and pinned in the first comment. If you want to help me, I will be very happy to start this project with you, okay? Let's now go to Ankapsu, right to the part where he talks about the issue of the difficulty of censorship, of people there, of the law, government people who want to silence us, want to censor us. He gives the example of Alexandre de Moraes, which was very poorly received in Brazil, but he also had his dispute there with Elon Musk, with Meta, with Mark Zuckerberg, the owner of Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and everything else. He fights with everyone. So actually, it ended up having a, let's say, international scope, right? Even Donald Trump got involved in the mix. Let's listen to his opinion here.
Just to point out here that people are questioning, look, it will be difficult to arbitrarily block the social network when cell phones connect directly to satellites, right? Complicated, right? Yeah, indeed, it will be complicated. Really, that's the future we will have very soon, right?
Yeah, this whole thing about this urge for censorship that Alexandre de Moraes has, it's complete nonsense that won't last long. They still manage to exploit some loopholes to block IPs and such, but it's becoming increasingly rare here. Soon, all browsers will have built-in VPNs that automatically do VPN. You won't even need to do anything. And that's it. It solves this censorship problem from Alexandre de Moraes here, right? But it's funny, there are people commenting here like, oh, it's going to be great.
What is he going to block? Is he going to block the satellite? How is he going to do that?
Great for pedophiles. I don't know how people want censorship. They want, Zando, censor these people, Zando. Censor them for real, Zando.
The social networks themselves already do that. The algorithm itself already does that. It's not interesting for them, right?
Censoring. When this kind of thing is already blocked by the social network itself, right? What Zando blocks is when you have an opinion that you don't like Zando, for example, when you have some criticism of the Lula government, a criticism of the Supreme Court, that's what they block. Yeah, rape, virtual rape, and pedophilia, those are already blocked by social networks, right? So
even on YouTube, sometimes you use a word that in context, you could actually say, but suddenly it's a word. You use rape, right? Drugs and such. It's probably going to be blocked.
Yeah, it's nonsense. What signal is this? Is it any specific provider? Yes, as we mentioned here, there are specific providers, but the satellites are all from Starlink, right? Will there be other companies that will provide this? Yes, soon. Kuiper, right, which is from Amazon, should also provide this type of service. They're also launching satellites into orbit to do this kind of thing, right? Will it help? It will help a lot. It's good to have competition. I think it's great to have competition, but Starlink still has a much better project, okay? I'm not going to lie to you. Starlink still has a much better capacity. The son of a bitch from Rum 7, Elon Musk, still has a better quality of connection than other providers, at least for now, right?
Elon Musk, sponsor of this channel, right?
So that's it. That's what I tell you, that this is the way, okay? The internet is already hard to censor today, and it will become increasingly difficult over time because if people...
Which is great. Let the market adjust itself. If you want, of course, to get our premium material, where you will access this complete mind map with everything we talked about, the current status and limitations, advantages, future evolution, compatible phones, context and competition, and implications. In addition to our ebook with everything we discussed, but in a more organized way, okay? How do you do it? I will leave the link here in the description. You fill it out quickly. In fact, I ask that when you fill it out, you already copy and paste the title of this video here so that we can deliver exactly what you want, since we have other various materials from other videos we make here. So you will receive exactly what you are looking for. Okay? If you want other news focused on growth, focused on artificial intelligence, this video is appearing here for you, okay?